Hey all, Adam Small here again from MyMusicMasterclass, and we have another product review for you today. Donner sent us their B1 analog bass synthesizer and sequencer, and we're gonna see what this thing's all about. If you've watched our channel before, you know that we always do a disclaimer in the beginning of the video, and this is that disclaimer. Donner sent us the B1 in exchange for this video review, but they didn't tell us to say anything specific or coach us in any way, and all of our reviews on this channel are always unbiased. So let's just get to it. Let's talk about the back of this unit first, since there's less there than on the top, so it'll be easier to explain. You have a main output that's 1/4 inch, and that's what I'm using right now to go into my software so that you can hear whatever's coming out of this thing. You have a MIDI in and out on the back as well, so that's pretty self-explanatory. There's a USB-C port, a power port, and finally the power switch. Now it's important to note that the USB-C port does not power this unit on. You need their power adapter, which is in the power jack going into, an outlet here. So the USB-C cable is used to connect to Donner's control software, where you can update the firmware or control some other parameters and functioning of the device. Now let's go over the top of this unit where you'll see a ton of stuff. Over here you have an aux in, you have a headphone out, a sync in, and a sync out. The headphone out and the aux in are self-explanatory. The syncs, the sync in and sync out, are for when you're using this thing in conjunction with other devices and you want to make sure that all your devices are in sync for a live performance, for example. As for the knobs and the switches here, there are plenty of options. First is this one here. This is the wave switch, so it switches between square and sawtooth waves. You have a VCO pitch knob. There are 3 knobs under the filter category: cutoff, resonance, and depth. You have an envelope knob and an accent knob. In the saturation section right here, you'll see that you have a switch and 2 knobs. And so the switch just turns on the saturation or turns it off, and those 2 knobs adjust the saturation effect. The same with the delay section. You have a switch right here that turns it on or off, and then you have some knobs that adjust the delay settings. Lastly, on the top, you have this master volume right here, and that, of course, adjusts the volume. The keys on this are silicone, and you can play it live if you want to, or you can use it as a sequencer. There's obviously more to this thing, and if you go down to the bottom right, you'll see that you have a bunch of function buttons here, and they do various things, and I'll show you some of them as we move along in this review. There have been several reviews of the B1 with the old firmware, version 1.0, and this just updated to 1.1. So I will be trying out some of the features that you may have seen in these other videos, but I'm also going to be trying out the new version 1.1 features in order to see how this thing works with these new features. The first thing that you're going to have to do is upgrade your firmware to 1.1.0. And this unit just came to me and it was still at 1.0, so you're going to have to do this process. You'll have to go to Donner's website and download the Donner control software. Install the software, use the USB-C port on this unit and connect it to your computer, and then you'll see the option to upgrade the firmware. So you're going to have to do that. Once your firmware is updated, you can use these new features that I'm going to talk about in this review. But the first thing I'm going to do is just try to make a regular bass line with the 16-step sequencer that's right in front of me here. Okay, so I'm going to do something on pattern 1. You can see that right here. It says 1. I'm going to hit the record and edit button, and now everything is illuminated, as you can see. So I'm going to create a 16-step pattern in C minor. That sounds good to me. Let's do it. Cool, so let's hear what that sounds like. All right, it's a little fast for me. Let's use this tap tempo button to change the tempo. Okay, that's a little bit slower. Now let's edit this pattern because right now it's just a slew of notes. Dot, 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 dot. Let's add some space, some rests to this. So I'm going to go back into edit. I'm going to edit this pattern here. You can see that everything's lit up. And I am going to go use these arrows. That goes in between the different steps of my pattern. Hear it? That's the end. That's 16, right? All right, right? So this is step 1. So what I'm going to do is find a spot where I want to do space, and I'm just going to take that note out. Here we go. All right, I'm going to take this note out. All I have to do is press this clear rest button right here, but don't long press it because that'll clear the whole pattern. I'm just going to press it like this, and there should be a space. Let's make another space. I'm going to keep going in my pattern. I'm going to do that one. I'm going to clear it, and let's hear what this sounds like. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to use the ratchet button here, just on one note of my pattern, just so you can hear what that does. I'm going to do it on this, on step 4. I'm going to do ratchet. So I'm going to press ratchet here, and then hold it down, and then say 4. So this should do it like kind of a stuttering effect. You'll hear it. See? You can also use slide, which I can explain, but you know, hearing it is worth 1,000 words. So let's just hear what slide does. All right, ready? I'm going to press, this is a slide button here. You get the idea. Now I want to put an accent on beat 1 of my pattern. So what I'm going to do is edit again, get to beat 1, which I'm on because it's right here. This is illuminated. And I'm going to press this accent button right here. So beat 1 should be accented. And this knob up here that says accent should be the one that's controlling how accented that note is. Let's hear it. It's a little louder than the rest of them. Let me make it a lot louder. Hear that? Really stands out, but I can make it less noticeable, like this. And you can obviously do that to any note in your pattern. There are more functions you can do here, but I'm just going to gloss over them. You can use this thing as an arpeggiator, which works like a keyboard arpeggiator. You hold down some notes and it arpeggiates them. You can use the gate length to adjust certain notes and the gate length. But we're going to move on. Actually, let's save this pattern so we don't lose it. So this is the save button right here. We're going to press it. You see how it flashes, then you press it again, and we've saved pattern 1. Now let's look up here and see what we can do when this pattern's playing to mess with it and make it sound different. All right, we can change the wave type. This is the pitch here. All right. Here's the filter section. This is the saturation. Here's delay. This is with the time all the way down, but you can make it crazy. You get the idea. You can really craft whatever you want on this in the electronic realm using these filters and effects and all these options. So with the old firmware on this thing, you were stuck with 16 step sequences. And if you wanted to chain two patterns together, you had to press the arrow key to go to the next one. Now it's a lot easier with song mode apparently, so we're going to try this out. So I made another pattern, and it's in a different tempo. And this is what it sounds like. You can see that I used the slide function on the second half of that pattern, which is here. I didn't use space in that one. I just wanted to see if I can link these two together, because apparently with this new firmware, you can have 250 steps in total, meaning that you can chain 16 patterns together on this sequencer and it'll all work within a song. Let's get into song mode now. So we need to double press the pattern button twice and that should enter us into song mode. Now you can see that two of these are illuminated. So we have options for 16 different patterns if we want to loop them together in a song. So for this first slot, I'm going to select it and I'm going to make sure that my pattern 1, what you see here, is enabled, which is cool. Now for the second step, I want to do the same pattern. I want to do pattern 1 again. So I'll click this and 1 is still there. So that's cool. Now for the third time through, let's make that pattern 2. And then for the fourth one, I'm going to say that's pattern 1 again. So this should be like an AABA song format, right? The first pattern happens twice, then the third time it's going to be the new pattern I just made, and then back to the first pattern. So in total, that's going to be 64 steps. If I press play now, it's not going to automatically go to the next pattern. You have to select it, so watch. It's going to stay here until I press this one. And then I have to press this one. Right, you know that that's the other pattern I made. So I'm going to switch this to automatically go to the next pattern in 1 second. But the thing with this mode is that you can load up all these with different patterns and then just select which one you want. If you're doing a live set and you have control over this thing, you can just be like, I want to go to this section here. I want to go to this section here. So it wouldn't automate that. But what I'm going to do is automate this. I want it to go, like I said, 2 of the first pattern, 1 of the second pattern, back to the first pattern. So you have to press this key here. Now it should play in order. Let's try it. And it worked. That's exactly what it was supposed to do. But the second pattern I made is a different tempo. And I did that on purpose because I want to show you how to adjust that. So how do I make everything the same tempo so that it works together in one song? Apparently you just press this key here. Now let's try that. Perfect. That did exactly what I wanted to do. And of course, you can change the global tempo and make it slower if it's too fast or speed it up. Now, I'm just going to play this thing and mess around with some of my parameters up here to show you kind of what you can do, again, with this song mode. It's the same thing that you could do with the patterns, really. Of course, this is something that I just put together quick for demonstration purposes, just to test this unit. So you can go much further and make something more sophisticated than what I made. But what I wanted to show you is that right now I'm using 64 steps because I'm using 4 16s, right? So that's 64. And what you can do here is, like I said, you can load this whole thing up with different patterns or do it in order like I did and make like a really cool sequential song where you have different sections. Regardless of how you want to do it, there's definitely a lot of options, and there's more options than I'm going to show in this video. Okay, so that's enough for song mode right now. Let's get out of song mode by double pressing that pattern button again. Okay, so we're in pattern mode again, and another thing that was updated in this firmware update was the way to access this random mode, which they talk about in the manual. So if you want this thing just to generate all the notes by itself and the embellishments, we can do that. So you see that I chose pattern 128 here, and I did that on purpose because that's the last pattern in the bank, right? So you have 128 possible patterns. Within song mode, you can choose 16 at a time and create things, but you have 128 bass lines that you can possibly create. Anyway, I've cleared this pattern, so this is what it sounds like right now. Not a very exciting bass line, right? So what I'm going to do is I am going to make this unit generate the best bass line in the world. Let's see what happens. So that's always an option. If you're feeling creatively tapped out, you can always ask the B1 kindly to create a wonderful bass line. And of course, you can edit it and modify it in any way you want. Typically, when you're dealing with synthesizers and sequencers, and this is both, there's going to be a lot of options, and that's the case here too. I haven't gone through every possibility, and there are tutorials, like I said before, that go over this unit and maybe showcase more of what it can do. My primary goal in this video was to test the features out and make sure they worked and that I was able to do it on my end without former knowledge of this product. Yes, I did have to read just a little bit about how to access these new features, but none of it was too convoluted. It was pretty easy to understand for me. Also, the way this is laid out on top, it's pretty easy just to mess around with knobs, even if you're not too familiar with filters or wave types or certain types of effects. You'll start to hear what things do rather quickly because the layout is simple. Now, I didn't mention this before, but the B1 is priced at $129.99 as of the filming of this video. I believe there's a coupon available to bringing it down a little bit more. So the price is definitely low for what you're getting here, and the upgraded functionality of the firmware seems to give that even more of a boost. The analog sound of this thing is also pleasing to my ears, and like I said before, it's easy to manipulate the parameters of this. So if I was playing a live set of electronic music and I had this synced up to another synthesizer or a drum machine, I could definitely have fun messing with all the knobs. So with all that being said, that's it for now. Please like the video if you liked it. Please subscribe to the channel because we need more subscribers. Please leave a comment or a question if you have one, and we'll see you next time.